What happens when the most powerful military alliance in the world suddenly loses its backbone? What if the United States decides to leave NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization? Of course, it is not as simple as it sounds. The US President would need approval from Congress or a two-thirds majority in the Senate. Nevertheless, the what if is worth exploring, especially since Donald Trump has often criticized NATO, saying allies should do more and questioning why the US keeps so many troops in countries like Germany, Italy, and Spain. So the real question is, what would actually happen if the United States stepped away? Before answering that, we need to understand why NATO matters so much and how deeply Europe depends on the United States. After the Second World War, Europe was in complete ruin. Cities were destroyed, infrastructure had collapsed, millions were displaced, and economies were shattered. There were severe food shortages, poverty, and political instability. On top of that, the Cold War created constant tension and fear. In this fragile environment, NATO was formed in 1949, with the United States playing the central role. During the Cold War, NATO acted as a strong deterrent against Soviet expansion, ensuring Western Europe remained stable despite global rivalry. Even after the Cold War ended, NATO continued to play a crucial role. In the 1990s, it intervened during the violent breakup of Yugoslavia, helping bring an end to devastating conflicts. Agreements like the Dayton Accords restored a degree of peace in the Balkans. Over time, NATO expanded eastward, bringing in countries from Eastern Europe and extending security guarantees to nations that had long felt vulnerable. This gradually transformed Europe into a largely stable and cooperative region. Now, if the United States were to leave NATO, that stability would be seriously shaken. Europe would immediately face a major security gap. Many NATO members rely heavily on US military power, intelligence sharing, and nuclear deterrence. Countries like Poland, Romania, and especially the Baltic states such as Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania would feel most exposed due to their proximity to Russia. Russia could become more assertive in this environment. While it does not formally claim these countries, it has consistently opposed NATO expansion towards Eastern Europe and views it as a strategic buffer zone. The economic impact would also be big. NATO's stability helps keep investors confident and supports trade and long-term growth. If NATO becomes weaker and uncertainty increases, European countries may have to spend more on defense. This could leave less money for other areas and slow down economic growth. Though Europe would likely try to strengthen its own defense through the European Union, it would take time due to differences in budgets, strategies, and political priorities. NATO would still exist, but without the United States, it would be significantly weaker and less effective. Now shifting to China. If the United States left Europe, China would likely see it as a major shift in global power dynamics. It could expand its influence by strengthening economic ties with Europe through trade and investment. At the same time, China would avoid direct involvement in European security issues while maintaining its strategic partnership with Russia. However, China would also be cautious. Any instability in Europe could disrupt global trade and slow its own economic growth. So overall, China's response would be strategic, not confrontational. Long and short, Europe would suddenly carry a security burden it has long shared with Washington. Russia would recalibrate its posture. China would quietly adjust its global strategy, and NATO, as we know it today, would no longer feel like the same shield that held the post-war world together. But perhaps the deeper question is this: is NATO just an alliance on paper or the foundation of a security system that has quietly shaped global stability for decades? But if that foundation weakens, the impact would not stay within Europe. It would spread across the world, reshaping power, alliances, and uncertainty itself. In the end, the question is not just what happens if US leaves NATO, it is what happens to the world order when its strongest pillar steps back from holding the weight.